Welcome to Ecstaticism, Embracing the Journey to Awakening, with your host, Shari Lynn. A diverse and eclectic array of individuals and experiences await you when you choose to make real changes and growth in the world around you and invite peace into your life. Now, here is your host, Shari Lynn.
Hi, this is Shari Lynn, and welcome to Ecstaticism, Embracing the Journey to Awakening. I'm very excited about today's show because we are welcoming back Maryann Rada, and she was on the show a month ago, and you were introduced to the Pleiadian Renegades. And we've been communicating with one another, and we think that there's a lot more information that we can share with everyone. So we're really excited about today's show. Both of us are going to be in communication with the Pleiadians and with you, and we're going to be bringing this information to the forefront. And I've been so grateful and amazed at how this whole show, the premise of the message has been healing, and that we're not alone, and how to experience this when we feel like we're at the end and that we're surrounded in darkness. So I want to say welcome, Maryann Rada, back to the show. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be back.
I think what we're going to talk about today is critical, and it is an urgent message to humanity. I started talking about this, over a month ago, that there is very important things that are going on that we need to be aware of, and there's a lot of fear connected to these things. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, and let's start. Let's get into this.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people just browsing through Facebook and looking at some of the other places on the internet where people are talking about their experience with Ascension, their experience with just the feelings physically and the feelings emotionally. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of feeling of being alone, of not knowing exactly what's going on and where we're going, especially looking at the news and what's going on outside of the news, the alternative media, what's going on in the world. Though you may not see it outside your window, you know that something big is happening on the planet. And it can leave a lot of us feeling disconnected, even though we're waking up and finding that we can network through consciousness. So,
And that seems like what's happening, especially in my world and the experiences we're having. What do we do when we don't feel safe anymore? Where do we go to when we really start awakening to the changes that are happening on this planet? And so what does it mean for us to be star seeds?
Yeah, and what does it mean to have a safe place when you're far away from what you feel is your emotional or your spiritual home? A lot of us that identify with that term of being star seeds feel like we're far away from home. We don't know exactly how to function in this place where there's a disconnection from other people. Everybody may have a different idea of what being a star seed means, being a healer or a light worker. There are all these labels, and there are all these places where people feel that they source from. I've been in contact with Pleiadians, and they have a particular place of origin, but they're also working alongside people who source from other places in the galaxy or in the universe. And as some people who are just awakening may not be able to really connect with that idea, but we aren't alone. There are people who are on other worlds who are communicating. It's very real. But what does it mean to say we're not home? When we're here, we're on a mission. We have something to do. We have to find what that means here.
Right.
We have to create that.
It's true. We do. And it is. And I want to start out. Let me read the message that you sent me from the Pleiadians. We'll start with this because it's about healing and it's about integration of yourself. And this is what the Pleiadian Renegades, this is their point of view. So this is what they had said. Healing is something that we do too. We have a lot of experience with healing and coming into a state of wholeness in the way of coming into love of self. It is not to be discounted that there are a lot of ways to reach the state of integrated wholeness, and each of them is worthy of exploration. Finding the right path for oneself is, at the moment of its discovery, a momentous movement forward in the evolutionary history of a soul embodiment, and much growth towards homeward going is to be gained in just that moment of discovery. And I feel like this is what my whole life has actually been about. This is what I feel. I feel that this is so true. And to have these really powerful experiences when you have the feeling of not being alone or gaining such knowledge, it's amazing to me how I've been put in situations that showed me. It showed me. I've seen it. And it is like it's an altered state of consciousness without doing, hallucinogenics and things of this nature. They just happen. And it also comes with the desire and asking for these experiences to be shown to you. We want to know. We want to know why we're here, what we're doing, and how we can return to a place of, a home that is, without cataclysm, without this survival mechanism that we're all kicked into. We really want to be the beings of love that we are.
Right. And the heart is what shows you the way. It's not anything outside of you. In that moment where you feel like something's pointing you towards home, pointing you towards where you know you need to be going, that's your heart. And there is really no outside home apart from the heart that will guide you to where your ultimate destination is. Because as we're on this journey through life, we are on a constant trajectory that is of transformation. So who we are now and who we are yet to become has very little resemblance to who we were when we started out. Or even, look back a year ago, where were you? And every moment where you approach healing is something that pushes you even farther into that trajectory. So you do change, but your heart is the one thing that stays constant.
Exactly, and it seems like that's our longest human journey, is from the head to the heart. And I was listening to Anika's channeling today, and she said something really beautiful. Is to take the anchor off our heart and just let it go. We have so many things that pull us down. All of these experiences were necessary. Your heart is your soul, and your soul knows what it's here to do. It knew before you chose to come into this human experience, and we chose it. We chose our parents. We chose all the things that we've had happen to us, and it's to take us to the next level, and it's the soul knows. The soul knows that each one of us is an integral part of this universe, and we all have something important to do that only we can do.
Right. But the first thing we have to do is integrate our shattered selves.
Mm-hmm.
And so many things happen over the course of a lifetime from the moment we're born, unless you live in an extremely benign environment where nothing bad happens to you. There are moments of shattering that begin almost instantly, the separation from the mother being the first one. And it's lifetime after lifetime of this, or just even in the course of one lifetime, our psyche gets so shattered and our heart gets broken so many times that to try to help another person find the way home, or to think that we have even the clarity ourselves to find our way home in brokenness, I think is fooling ourselves without at least the willingness to go into a path of healing, something that will lead us into integration of the shattered parts of ourselves. And that means that you have to look at what's broken, how it got broken, who you are in that brokenness, and be able to take the hand of that broken person that's part of an aspect of who you are, and bring that broken child or that broken aspect of yourself back home into the heart of wholeness that's within you right now.
And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a willingness to want to know yourself. And we're told that the journey of the self is it's a selfish journey, and we're not supposed to look within ourselves for answers, and that is one of the most scariest concepts to me. I don't understand that. It's like, no, how will we know if we don't know the self? And, the readings that I know you and I both do for people, one of the first things, I get this card all the time. It's a 7 of Swords, and in my deck, it's a shattered mirror. And we're fragmented. We go through all these different experiences, and we go through so much pain, and we become fragmented. And, if you look at it as a broken mirror, this is how I use the analogy in my readings for people. You don't have to pick up all those little shards. Right. It's like it's broken. Look at it. Why did it break? What can we do to not go back into those places and quit trying to pick up those little pieces? They're going to jab you and stab you. It's like You got to look at it from another angle. And it's
right. You can't put yourself back into the picture that you were because you won't fit. There's a reason that it broke, and often that's because we resist the movement forward. I wonder if we were without resistance, if we were without beliefs, without attachments, would this movement forward be without heartbreak or without being shattered? But, we're social beings. We have connections with people. We have belief structures that grow within us or that are given to us, and they create some resistance, and maybe that's the source of the brokenness.
I think it would be
pick up the pieces.
No, you can't. It's much more painful, I think, to jab yourself with broken little shards of glass, which is what it feels like. And I think that if we really were to change the way that, it's like I'm optimistic. I'm always optimistic. I feel as though what we're coming into, the new world that we're birthing and bridging this, right now we're doing this, we're bridging this new world into existence. If we were to, explore space, and when we were to talk about truth, and if we were to, really know the bloodlines and the, our connection with the universe. That's what we've lost sight of that. And if we were to look at that, we wouldn't have so many problems with death. The heartbreak wouldn't be as it is, how we feel now. It's like when we lose someone, to be able to connect with them on a spiritual level, their soul level, that it's learning that love is eternal and it never goes away. We don't get death right. And then we do become shattered. We do anchor our hearts. We have to find new ways to let this go. And this is the pathway, I believe, to doing this, is to know truth and to know love is eternal.
Right. And one of the scarier cards talking about the tarot deck is death. But whenever that comes up, it's a sign that there's something to let go of. And every point of healing is a tiny death for some part of ourselves that no longer serves the whole. Just like part of the body will die in order for the whole organism to continue on in a healthy state. If that doesn't happen, what you have is cancer itself that won't die. We have to be willing to allow parts of ourselves to die when they no longer serve, and to mourn that, but not hang on to the mourning, to know that there is birth within that. Just as a child has to let go of the state when he or she comes through into life, they have to let go of that memory of where they came from. And hopefully carry some spark of the remembrance with them, which I think is what we're gaining as we awaken. We're regaining.
Totally. I believe that too, that we're here to awaken to our own true identity and to heal the sense of separation. It's all beautiful how it all weaves together.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you like to start with the story and see what the conversation turns into?
I think that would be awesome.
Okay. I want to give a little background with this. The Pleiadian Renegades are master storytellers, along with being healers. They're a group of beings who have a history of having healed through searching out where love is in the hardest places to find it. And they have a history of being shattered as a people.
Many of the histories of the human race in the galaxy talk about what happened in the star system of Lyra eons and eons ago, when a planet was destroyed and the people scattered throughout this part of the galaxy. And part of that race became what we know as the Pleiadians today. So they're very familiar with this idea of brokenness, of a lost sense of home, of creating a new home, and of carrying home within them. And that's what I think is part of the strength of our connection with them today, because right now we have a sense of our home being lost and destroyed, polluted, toxic now as we look around. So I think what their words are right now to us are extremely valuable. So they shared with us a story, many stories throughout all of their writings. They tell little sort of fairy tale stories, once upon a time kind of stories that speak to a part of our consciousness that is familiar with the archetypal and is responsive to, once that connection is made with the archetypal, is responsive to a deeper message that bypasses the mental editor of our waking consciousness. Does that make sense?
Total sense to me. I totally believe that we are embodying these archetypal energies. It's like whatever is always has been, but we're at a time of the ending of those things, and we are about to birth new ones.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. And as you were saying, last time we spoke, we were talking about traveling through time and space on this spaceship that we're traveling on, which is the planet, and seeing the constellations shifting and what's coming up. I mean, what are the archetypes that are awaiting us? Are they there for us to create? Are they there for us to discover within ourselves?
Yeah, or are the archetypes we're working now going to, evolve? And those are really important questions. What will they evolve into? That's what Christina Schwinn, she brought that up to me. She was my first guest on my first show. And, she says, do you believe that the archetypes could evolve? And I'm like, wow, that's a really good question.
I listened to that show, and that was an excellent question that she posed. Mm-hmm. And it's a really interesting idea, almost as if we're all encased in an egg that's about to hatch out into something new, and we will become our own new archetypes. Perhaps that's the way it will be. Mm-hmm. And we will become the gods we've been waiting to have return to us.
Exactly. Feels right to me. It's like, that's the thing, people are learning, I guess, we're all learning this, that, truth is a truth, that's using your discernment, and you can't change a truth. A truth is eternal too. It just, you can't change it.
Right. And it's coming out more and more now. It's impossible to keep it bottled up any longer. And we're seeing more of that.
Truly.
So shall I start with the story that they have? They gave this to me last night, as I was asking for any of their input. If you ask a Pleiadian for input, I think they're Irish. I can say that because I have Irish blood.
So do I.
If you ask for input, you will get it. And they have shared a story that has never before been told and is being shared with the audience here for the first time.
Nice.
So shall I read this for you?
Please do.
Okay. Once there was a man who had lost his map to the world. In the frantic search for it, he also lost the key to his front door, and his franticness became despair with a layer of anger and pessimism thrown in for good measure. It is not uncommon a mix of emotional flavors to many of you listening. Now, the man had a journey to take, and he had no time to waste getting his act together. He had gathered the necessary garments, the phone calls to friends had been made, and he was well stocked with sustenance and energetic matter for his trip. He had only to find the map and the key, and he was set and ready to go. The train was ready to depart the station, however, and he was forced to abandon his search and leave without that necessary, he had thought, equipment. So here's the introduction to our our journey of life. When I got the message, I was thinking, this must be what it feels like when you come to this planet and you're like, oh, gosh, I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to be going. I know there's some place called home, but here I am on this trip, and I've started out, and I'm just going to have to wing it.
Exactly. It's like, we have to learn trust. We got to trust in the universe. We don't trust ourselves. We don't know how powerful we really are.
Yeah, and we're really dependent on GPS.
Yes, we are.
And what's happening with that, and that's an interesting point. So many of us are dependent on GPS, but the changes that are happening, that are naturally happening in the solar system, with the sun going through a very strange cycle and gamma ray bursts coming through, and satellites falling, and little asteroids coming through, knocking things around. The GPS is not all that accurate in the long run, with all of these little things going on that can knock it out of alignment, that can fry some of the equipment that's part of it. So how can you really, really trust the technology unless you've got the knowledge of where you're going within your internal compass?
Exactly, because we it seems like, we have to be lovers of technology. Young people always yell at me if I said I can't stand GPS or this or that, or they get upset with me. And they're like, no, you have to love technology. My son especially, and this technology, my son has a new car that can tell you how to back up. And I was in his car twice, and I'm like, I could get real used to this. But we can't lose what we have, because technology is progressing. It's like there's got to be a really beautiful weaving of technology and, our own inner knowledge, inner guidance system.
Right. And what happens when the technology has progressed and the ability to understand the bigger picture has been repressed, which is kind of where we're finding ourselves now. The technology is interwoven with the hype of glamour and money and everything, but a deep inner understanding of how to use this to better our situation as human beings on this planet, not knowing what we're doing.
It seems like we could lose the spiritual aspect if we're not careful. There's so much stuff going on with technology, but we need to stay the spiritual beings that we are and embrace the technology to use it for the good of man. Anytime we're doing things from the heart and for the good of all involved, it's okay, but when we get away from that, it gets kind of scary. It could put us in so many different places, the type of technology that's coming up.
Right. It could, and there's good technology out there now that can be used for spiritual purposes. There are things that you can sleep on that can help ground you. There are things that you can use, to balance your brain, especially people who use cell phones, especially people who use cell phones always on one side of their head. It can lead to, there are magnets in that thing, and we are electromagnetic beings. So, we have to consider that there are technologies out there that are benefiting us. Even as we were talking about earlier, simple technologies that can raise the frequency of the water that you drink. It's such a vital thing. And we don't think about it often, just take a drink of something, think it's spring water, it's good for us. But you have so much information about these ways to raise the frequency of it and how that changes our cellular structure.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And if that's what, communicating with the Pleiadians is doing too, it's affecting us on a biocellular DNA level. And it's because our thoughts are our frequency, and where we vibrate is what we are. And that's, one of the most important things I think we can all teach people is that your thoughts are your vibration. And we see it. We see it more and more. The universe has totally supported that over the last few years, in that, we have to pay attention to our thoughts, and we create our own realities. With what the bleep coming out and all of these things that have been happening over the last 10 years, it really is, it's all in divine order. It's all progressing the way that it should, and it hasn't ever not been that way. It's just we seem to be more complacent in the past. Now there's a lot going on. There's a lot more going on now.
Yeah, there are tools out there, but even what we're doing right now is using technology for a higher purpose.
And it certainly has helped the situation. I mean, I've been studying a lot of things. Like, I used to be into conspiracy theories and all of those types of things. And now if I'm going to look into those things, I want to see something positive as well. I do believe it's all in divine order, but thank goodness for the internet, because it really has brought the truth out. I mean, it really has. There's no hiding now. It's like the light in the shadows. It has to be there. We talked about this on the phone, and it's amazing to me that light is all that there really is. It's all there is, and you can't take darkness into a room of light, but you can bring light into a room of darkness. It's the darkness really doesn't have any power, but it's necessary to know what it is and why it's there.
And there's secrets in this. The title of Nika's last talk was "Secrets in the Shadows." There's something in the shadows that is there to be discovered, and it takes some special kind of consciousness to be willing to go into that place. And the Pleiadians always say there's some spark of divinity in every being. Even the darkest among you has some spark of divinity. This is something that they've said over and over. It's like this beautiful light being that's got cloaks and fur coats and parkas and ski jackets and all this stuff layered and layered and layered. But that's necessary in order to go into the darkness and not completely lose oneself in it. But there's love hiding there. There's love to be discovered. There's some special secret of love to be found there.
Definitely. And it's like, we have darkness every day. It's like we don't have sunlight all day. And it's like these are simple things that, we really, if we think about them, the answers lie just in front of us.
Close your eyes. Mm-hmm. Close your eyes and it's dark, but what can you see the light when you close your eyes? When you look inward, when your eyes are reflected on the inside of your eyelids, and you see darkness, can you see the light from within reflected there? And that's a technology.
It is. And it shows how powerful we are as light beings. That's what we are. We're light beings. And we are starseeds. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this story with the Pleiadian Renegades and Maryann, and we're going to continue to talk about our experiences. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Ecstaticism, Embracing the Journey to Awakening, and we are talking with Maryann Rada, and we left off talking about, bringing the light into the dark, that we are the light, and, there's always a darkest before the dawn. So I think we're in it. So, Maryann, do you want to continue with the story?
Yes, let's do.
All right.
Because there's a new development in the plot as we've started out. Let's continue with it. Okay, this is the story that the Pleiadians have shared with us today. Let us fast forward here to the next scenario of our fellow. He was well on his way to his destination, which was to be a life-changing transformation by the time he had gotten through the various levels of adventure his trip had laid out for him. He was doing fairly well by his own standards and was eager to finish the journey and get some much-needed rest. As promising as a vacation may sound, often it is after its conclusion that one realizes how tired he or she actually is. So it is with our friend. And he plodded and trudged his way through the last, he hoped, few miles of muck and ash-stained monstrosities of the scenario with little complaint but for his fatigue and odd feelings of discomfort for being in the body he was traveling in. As the next setting after this could easily have been as bad or worse. Now, I have to break here and say a lot of people are having trouble with Ascension symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
As they're like, when is this going to end? When will we go home? When will the world change? When is 2012 going to happen? I'm so tired. I'm so achy. I'm so sore. I'm so discouraged.
Yes, it's true. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll continue now. He didn't want to use up the goodwill of those around him with high-volume reports of his aches, vertigo, and indigestion when there may be worse ahead of him, for which he may need some sympathy. So he plodded, not knowing where or
or when anything would shift, with the big hope of love shining behind one of the clouds overhead or hiding behind a still standing tree. As he made his way through tangled undergrowth and age-old branches of decay and impenetrable darkness, he had a lot of time to reflect on what was happening to him. He had wised up over the course of his adventure, seeing the landscape change from natural beauty and abundance into strict control and now degradation. He was depressed, and he wanted a hot shower, a clean set of garments, and home. It dawned on his throbbing head that he had no idea where home was. He wondered where it could have gone. Was it where he began his trip? It was nice enough, but not really his digs. Nice to visit, but not the place he wanted to stay. There had been so much promise for this journey to improve as it continued, but the truth is, he had no way of knowing where or when it would end. So here he is, going through this journey, and here we are going through this life, not knowing what's going on most of the time, thinking that we have a pretty good idea, but under the surface, really, are we, how many of us are feeling like we're just trudging through mud and getting stuck and fighting and working and getting discouraged and really giving into despair a lot?
It's true. It's like experiencing the dark night of the soul. It's like being depressed and being down. It's like it's almost like we have to be in a crisis before we can take the steps necessary for a healing.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the time it seems that a light disappears. Like so many people I've seen lately have been depressed, or they're really on the edge of being able to handle things. A lot of really dire stories I've been privy to lately, and it seems like just then a light will go out. And today I heard Nelson Mandela passed away.
Oh no!
And I'm thinking, there's a light that won't be shining, and we all have to pick up that lantern and carry on. We have to do it. We can't depend on him anymore. His memory is there, but we have to be the strength. We have to be the embodiment of the light that he carried. But that's also part of who we are.
Right.
We can recognize it in him, then we can recognize it in ourselves. And we have to look at each other and pull ourselves through, holding hands, even if we're separated from each other and you feel like you're the only light bearer in your community, you're the only person in your family who has any idea of really what's going on, and the rest of the people in your family are glued to the TV or whatever. We have to see it in each other, even if it's through closed eyes, even if where we meet is in meditation.
It's true, and it just having to be, in a place where we know that we have something to do. It's important to know that we have something to do. I mean, I've been through depression and all of these things, but it's like when you hit those healing crises, that's when something very profound happens. And it's like it's like
a moment out of time, doesn't it? It's like there isn't any. It's a timeless moment, and it's extremely powerful.
It's been incredible. I mean, and I love where this story is going. So let's continue with this, because I have a little story I'll share with you.
Wonderful. Okay, we continue. Where would the map be found? Was there indeed a map to get him back home at all? What on earth was happening? Would he wander forever, he wondered? He had endured dire situations, death, living as if dead, illness, injury, heartache beyond comprehension, and yet he kept going and going and going. What was the purpose of this trip anyway? He had entered innocently enough, believing himself to be in the hands of a decent tour group, yet how soon had his illusion been dashed? He had nothing but memories to carry him through these dark days, trudging through wilds and ruins and desolation abounding. Memories of home, of childhood, of growing and interacting with people in his life, of his loves and his losses, and his wishes and dreams and regrets. Memories that sat empty in his stomach as if he had nothing to nourish his aching body on but air. Nothing would satisfy him without knowing where he was heading, or at least, in some gratifying sense, where he had originated. The stories of home had some ring of truth to them, yet without piecing together a map, he remained lost. Now, how does that feel? I mean, that's like, how many of us can I? This is the archetypal storytelling of the Pleiadian Renegades. This is something that I think we can all relate to.
And it's the journey through the end. It's the journey through the underworld.
You know, the hero's journey, huh?
Yeah, and it's like, what will sustain us to go through this? And I think it's more self-awareness. It's prayer and meditation. And I've had really amazing experiences just by asking, you know, spirit, star beings, angels, anybody. You know, I've been crushed, and I'm like, whoever cares enough to help me, whoever hears me, assist me. And that's a healing crisis. That's when we do it. You know, when you feel that you're at the end of the rope and totally lost, it's going to happen. And you ask, and it'll be shown to you. And it's like a loss of hope. I mean, I've been so down. I feel like, you know, you've got a store where you're trying to help people, and that's what I want to do, is assist people. I have to make sure that I am a vessel that can pull myself back afloat. I have to be floating. I can't be drowning, you know?
Right.
And it's so cool. So this goes on to talk about how it is embodied in our DNA. It's embedded in our DNA.
Right. And when you say, and this is something that we all say, we all believe it's sometimes it's the last shred of hope that we have. It will be shown to you. You know, if you can just call on a higher power, it will be shown to you. But think about that, and the higher power and the angels that definitely do come and assist us. They're there. I've seen them. I've sensed them. When you say it will be shown to you, what is it that shows it to you? Sometimes you may get a vision of a book being held open in front of you, or a picture may appear in front of you, but truly, I think it's the heart that shows this to us. So if in that moment of crisis we can call out and find it, and somebody says, hey, you know, it's in your heart, just look there, it's there. You have nothing to fall back on but this broken heart, and the answer is right there.
And it's always right there. And I wanted to talk about this experience I had in Akiva, and this was last October. And, you know, I know that I've been embodying a lot of the Ishtar archetype in this lifetime, which is the, you know, queen of the underworld, journeying through the underworld, having all these things happen in my life just to make me a stronger person. And when I was in this kiva, it was 5 feet under the ground, and I went into this kiva meditating, and I had my Jhana Guide crystals with me, Ananda Light crystals with me, and I had the most profound experience. I started to move the Kundalini energy through my body, and this all happened very, very quickly. And I was asking for a vision. I was asking for guidance, and I was asking to be shown something of myself. Okay, I needed more information. So as I was sitting in this kiva and started to move the Kundalini serpent energy through my body, from behind me, the serpent goddess came from behind me. And as I saw her face was completely superimposed over mine, and I could see the scales of the cobra goddess from the inside. And it was so beautiful. And as she came through me, and as she was leaving, I could see the symbol of the cobra symbol on her back. And as she was leaving, a gold cat face came right to me. And it was over very quickly. But this was such a powerful experience, and only I can figure it out. It's mine. It was my experience. But it also reflects to me everything that we've been given through the history of this planet. If you look at the Egyptians, and you know how they all had they have heads of cobras, heads of lions, you know, and this, I believe, is through some type of altered consciousness that we gain this information. And what this meant for me was I had to study this and research this and to find out exactly what it meant. So me embodying the serpent goddess and, you know, knowing that this has been an integral part of my journey, okay, and for a lot of different reasons. And the gold cat face I found out was Mofdet, who is an Egyptian cat goddess, the lynx goddess. Mm-hmm. And what Mofdet is known for is cutting the heads off the serpents. So just that alone, and knowing that, was that this told me that this was the end of my journey through the underworld.
Wow, that's powerful.
It was really powerful, and that's where this information that we're giving to people can go. It's like it just takes courage, asking, and awakening to the fact that all of this information is available to us, and because whatever was always has been, and it still is, until we can find enough courage to birth the new ones.
Mm-hmm. Right, and the snake is a perfect imagery for that.
It is powerful because it's mostly, what do we fear the most? We've been told, serpent energy, is something to be feared, and is the whole demise of everything. I think it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, and how can you gain mastery over that? A friend of mine just found a rattlesnake in her front yard last week, and she posted a picture of it, and her husband killed it, and the next picture she posted, that rattlesnake was a roasted rattlesnake on a bed of tomatoes with balsamic vinaigrette and some roasted rattlesnake eggs. And they had it for dinner, and they got a dose of rattlesnake energy, and I was like, oh my God, that's an amazing way of transforming that fear. And there's a Chinese tradition of, if you eat something that you fear, it can't hurt you if you're afraid of eating something.
Yeah, it's true. We face the fears. I believe that, with the shift in consciousness that is still at hand and going through this wormhole, how are we going to get there? I believe we're going to kiss the snake, ride the snake, and birth a whole new existence. So we can talk about that when we get back. We're going to take a quick break. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Ecstaticism, and we are talking to Maryann Rada, and we are finding our way home. And that's what this whole show is about how to find your way home. And the experience that I had with the Cobra Goddess has been very powerful, and I think that similar experiences are available to everyone. And what is the ultimate experience that will bring us home? What are you feeling?
Well, this is interesting because as you were talking about the Cobra and the Kundalini energy rising, anyone who's done any meditation can feel that. And, you have to be careful sometimes with the Kundalini energy. If you have a blockage, something that you're not willing to look at, man, that can shake you up. But when you're willing to really embrace that energy of the snake, of the cobra, of the serpent, which is just a primordial energy. It's the way that electricity moves, it's the way that plasma moves. It's a current. It's a current that's alive. And then you talked about the wormhole. And I was thinking now, what would be the experience of moving through a wormhole would be the experience of a snake being within itself. And then to bring it home, it's the experience of going through the birth canal that we've all had. Well, most of us, unless we've been C-section, but that's a universal thing that it's our first experience is going through a wormhole as if you're moving through a serpent's shape and through a serpent's body itself.
Mm-hmm. It's fascinating. I mean, it's the most important symbol, I think, on the planet. There's a reason why the caduceus is the medical symbol. Those serpents are real, and they reside with it. They move within our body. And I had a really incredible experience with Nikki Scully, who wrote Alchemical Healing. And she did a cobra meditation with us Kundalini and brought them right up through our feet and through our body. And those serpents will feed on tumors and any kind of things in your body. And you can use them for self-healing, and it's very, very, very powerful. And it's a shame that I think that we don't all know this or talk more about it.
Well, maybe you should do a show on that.
I guess so.
That's definitely worth listening to. Especially some information like that would be
it's
right now.
And it's what I want to write my book about. So I just need to get busy.
Well, good. And that I don't know. It seems like the snake is. A lot of us find snakes at home. I've always had some kind of thing where I found a snake at home or something. There's a message in it too, and there's a, especially if they're in the wild. Where I used to live in the mountains, I would find copperheads, which I didn't want to find, but they were little baby copperheads, and there was a message in them that was very potent. And I think my friend with the rattlesnake, she got a really potent message with that too. There's something primordial that we need to pay attention to when we come across the idea of the snake, but definitely there's a healing power that is so potent and so innate. It's in us. And I think we're taught to be afraid of that, because to embrace that is really to embrace the inner power, the core power. That's where our real strength is. You can lift weights all day long, get to the gym and lift weights, but until you know your core strength, because you've gone through some sort of training that has broken your idea of I'm not strong enough to do this, and you find that, then you really have a sense of what the core power of a human being embodied is. And that's something that's very dangerous if somebody wants to control you, to have a sense of that.
It's true. I mean, we've been controlled from the beginning. I'm just so over it. You know what I mean? I'm so over this separation and this desire to keep the separation and, enslave people's minds, their bodies, now the whole food thing. I mean, the gig is up is the way that I see it, and it's like, it's time to get real. And it's time to really, trust ourselves and the people that are closest to us and anybody that we have communication that we can talk about these things. I mean, it's really, really amazing that all this information is available to us. And it's like it could be a fleeting glimpse, but pay attention. It's like we can pay attention to what's going on. And
yes, absolutely. It's encoded in the DNA. The DNA is a crystalline structure. And if you're familiar with rock, you can hold a crystal and get information from it, which any of them can do. Then you are a crystalline embodiment. You have that, and you can tune into it. Any one of us can. And the map is there. That is the map. That is the map.
And I love what the Pleiadians were saying here too with you. It's like, not everybody is visually inclined, but they're able to pick up a memory, through their mental faculties or to feel something, a sense of deja vu, things of this. And, they say by home, we mean home of the soul, the home of higher dimensional self, and the over self that is the same soul lineage, but a higher vibration frequency that is now achievable on Earth in this matrix. I mean, how beautiful. And it's a truth.
Right. And I don't want to say that there's not another home that we can remember, because the Pleiadians have shared with me memories of this home planet that they're from. And I drew pictures of the map of it, and my son drew a picture. I've seen images in my dreams of this, and things have come through of this purple sparkling sky and some other things. And, why not? If that's home, it's home. And it's inside of us. You have to trust the message that's coming from your own embodiment, because you brought it here from somewhere.
It's true. And I being in this work, and people think, that what we're doing is kind of crazy and we're kind of the weird ones, but that purple sky, the purple beings, the blue beings, the pink beings, they're communicating with us. They're here and they're a part of us. It is part of that crystalline structure of all that is. We are made of star stuff. And where it is that we're going and heading to is so, I believe, it is immaculate and beautiful when we finally return to what we know as home. It's like we're returning right now.
Yeah. But I've traveled so many places on this world, and I've felt pieces of home, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it's the collection of all of it that you bring meaning to in your own being that really is home, and you create it.
It's beautiful. I want to thank you so much for being with us, Maryann. We have so much to talk about. You should come back next week. Would you like to come back next week?
I'll come back when you'll have me.
All right, next week. Well, I think we should talk a little bit more maybe about the star beings and how they appear to us. We have a lot to talk about. An hour show just isn't enough with you. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be able to share this with you.
And I want to say, everybody, look up Maryann Rada online on Facebook. You can find us both. Mm-hmm. And will you please direct people to your website real quickly?
Yes, Opalescent 9, that's OPALESCENTNINE, opalescent9.com. You'll find everything there, my books, my readings, some recordings that I've done of the Nika channeling, audio stuff, and downloads. It's all free.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Be love, be peace, be joy, and be ecstatic.
Thank you again for joining us this week. Please invite us back into your life next Tuesday at 12 noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time for another edition of Ecstaticism, Embracing the Journey to Awakening with Shari Lynn on the Voice America 7th Wave channel. Until then, have a wonderful week.
Thanks again for listening to the preceding program, brought to you on the 7th Wave Network. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit 7thwavenetwork.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the preceding program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.